What's going on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal, Spaz Phoenix, the YWC Reality Check with no co-host once again, but please do go check out our buddy Jake. Here to bring you some quick Clash in Paris thoughts. Didn't think I was going to be coming up to do anything like this, because if you listen to my preview, I didn't think there was much for muchness on this show. Very, very filler, very, very similar to the comments that I made about the last NXT show, and holy fuck, was I wrong. And not even wrong in the sense of like, okay, we know some stuff is coming up and maybe they'll do it at this show. Some stuff that was, you know, pleasantly surprising type of thing. And not that I thought I would have included this in the preview even, but it started on SmackDown. They were in France. They were taking full advantage of the France audience, being back in Lyon for SmackDown and then in Paris for the actual PLE. But SmackDown had its own bit of news as well. The crowd was incredible. The crowd was insane. I will double down on the fact they should have taken advantage of it and put AJ and Dominic Mysterio on the pay-per-view instead of saving it for tomorrow. But that's just a minor gripe. We took care of some minor gripes on SmackDown. We tackled the women's tag team title scene. We were originally supposed to have a women's tag team title match between Chelsea Green's Secret Hervis and the current champions of Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair. Now, I don't know all the ins and outs of all this, but apparently Piper Niven wasn't able to make it to France. I hope that was just a travel issue or an admin issue and that she's not, like, injured or dealing with any personal stuff that's not our business to dig into anyway, but she wasn't there. So in the storyline, it was meant to be Alba Fire and Chelsea Green were going to take over that tag title opportunity, and they attacked Charlotte Flair in the entranceway to give themselves a leg up, pun intended, because they injured her leg. She wasn't able to compete, so then they and Wade Barrett on commentary were demanding that Alexa Bliss defend the tag titles 2-on-1 against Alba Fire and Chelsea Green. Obviously, the powers that be came out and said no, and what we got instead was a pretty cool one-on-one match between Alexa Bliss and Chelsea Green. Alexa Bliss, you guys know I've got a big lot of time for. I don't know where I was going with that. There was going to be a horrible pun in there somewhere. I got a lot of time for Alexa Bliss. She got a lot of undeserved shit for a long time, much like Charlotte Flair, and that's why they make such a good team. But Chelsea Green, on the other hand, and you guys have heard me say before, the comedic shtick that her and Ethan Page are doing right now in NXT, just bring that up to the main roster, it'll be fine. But them in a one-on-one match was an entirely different, I wasn't expecting that, but let's fucking go. Alexa Bliss got the win, then she got beaten the shit out of after the fact by the two members that were there of the Secret Hervis, being Chelsea Green and Alba Fire, and Charlotte Flair hobbled back out to make the save, but Green and Fire stood tall. That's going to happen at a later date, I'm assuming. If it is just a travel issue, once they get back stateside, I'm sure Alba Fire and Piper Niven, lost my train of thought there already, will have their title shot. Speaking of which, you guys know I'm not an AEW guy, but Ela Dawn apparently made her debut in AEW. That's kind of cool. It'll be interesting to see what they do. I hear they killed her in her first match, but AEW do be AEW-ing. Sticking with the women's division, and the next complaint that they haven't done anything with Julia, but they have, because she's a champion at the moment. The Kiana James manager thing, I like it. I'll look at it through an unbiased lens. If you're not somebody that watched NXT and saw the really over-the-top, cunning businesswoman gimmick that she did in NXT, then her kind of popping up and saying, oh yeah, by the way, I'm Julia's manager now, more or less, probably doesn't resonate as much with you. I do watch NXT, so I did see that. I saw when her and Brooks Jensen and Fallon Henley and Josh Briggs were all in sort of a love square. Doesn't really work. Her going in there and getting squashed, because she was squashed by Michin in like 10 seconds, but she's not there to say, hey, here I am, I'm Kiana James, here I'm going to plant my flag on SmackDown and make my role. No, she's there to be the goon that Julia puts in somebody's way before they get to Julia. And this thing between Michin and Julia has been building up for several weeks, and it's a match that I'm going to look very much forward to. So Kiana James and Julia, beating the crap out of Michin after the match. We're going to get Michin versus Julia at some point for the women's US title. And I don't hate that. It's a direction. It's fine. Is it as prominently featured as, you know, say Becky Lynch with the Women's Intercontinental Championship? No, but respectfully, in the scope of like, Julia's done incredible things outside of WWE, not denying that. Within the scope of WWE, she's been there for a cup of coffee, won a title, and not done much else, as everybody seems to keep reminding us. So she's not going to be looked at like a Becky Lynch, and especially when we get to what happened at Clash at the end of the night, Becky's going to be super, super elevated. And Becky has already had a practice run at this. I've said this many times as well. The practice run for a Women's Intercontinental Championship was Becky Lynch going down to NXT, picking up their belt, and defending it on Raw, like a secondary title. So Becky Lynch is just in a different spot. You can't always go apples for apples. I like Julia. Like I say, the cup of tea that she had in NXT was really good. Her and Stephanie Vacour coming in at the same time was always going to be a difficult, like, who's going to be the big star and who's going to be the other star that came in when the big star came in type of conversation, but I think they both navigated those waters pretty well. Julia's on SmackDown. Stephanie Vacour's got a title shot lined up against Vacant on Raw. We're going to figure out tomorrow night, probably tonight by the time you guys are listening to this, what's going on with that. I've already told you that I think they stretched this out to Crown Jewel in Perth and give everybody the Stephanie Vacour Rhea Ripley match that everybody has been waiting for. Speaking of Rhea Ripley, the scene of Rhea Ripley being basically mobbed and swarmed at her trying to get to her Uber in France over the weekend that went viral, and then she spoke on it herself, is fucking disgusting. And in a week where we've already had other larger world issues, plus the Raja Jackson incident at Knox Pro with Psycho Stu, I encourage you all to take the one simple step in life, and all you have to do, get up out of your bed in the morning, look yourself in the mirror and say, I'm going to try not being a dickhead today, and see how that works. So, thoughts out to Rhea Ripley. Horrible, horrible scenes, horrible times, horrible hours. The fact that she should have to say the things that she's had to say over the past day or two is bad in and of itself. Just don't be weird. Asuka came out a long time ago talking about the amount of people online that they're like propositioning her and whatnot. Just like, don't fucking be weird. Don't fucking be weird. You don't have to jump the rail and jump into the ring and assault somebody for me to say you are one of the bad ones in the wrestling community. On a quick side note, on a quick tangent, gotta love the people that flagged my Clash in Paris preview and flagged my clip because I decided to talk about the Raja Jackson incident and flag it as hate speech, because saying that a violent, terrible person is violent and terrible is apparently problematic and hate speech and whatnot. But it's there. And for any of you curious as to what I'm talking about, if you don't want to go back and listen to the preview because the pay-per-view's happened now, I did clip it out and upload it as its own clip as well. And, you know, people are calling me all the ists in the comment section, so feel free to join that conversation in the comment section if you choose to, but do so at your own peril. Intelligence is lacking. We pushed forward the Randy Orton Drew McIntyre thing as well on this week's episode of SmackDown. I thought for a brief moment that this was going to be the match that they added to the card. They didn't. They are doing this thing with Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre where Drew says, if you attacked me because you wanted to attack me, then fine. If you attacked me because of what I did to Cody Rhodes, you're an idiot. And I thought that's a very unique way to approach it. Like, if you're coming at me just to attack me just because you want to be a dick, let's have a fight about it. You know, big deal, want to fight about it. It's a cool way to keep Cody Rhodes in the mind while he's not on the screen, I suppose. And another round of Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre, it's not any kind of bad thing. Two big stars. They're not necessarily in the title picture as of yet, but they're still names you would want to put on your marquee if you were putting on a show. Shout out to Cody and Brandy Rhodes, who apparently welcomed their second child. That's awesome news. They already have their daughter Libby. This one is Lilani. I believe. Somebody correct me down in the box below if I'm mistaken. But yeah, they did everything they needed to do in that Drew and Randy Orton segment, other than tell me that they were adding it to the pay-per-view the next night. But I guess it's going to WrestlePalooza? Maybe, perhaps? The other thing we did, and it was a match that was added to the Clash in Paris card, was we had a number one contenders match for the tag team titles, currently held by the Wyatt Six, between Mellow Don't Miz and the Street Profits. Now, Mellow Don't Miz have been teasing this dissension for a long time. Now, I put this out on another chat. Shout out to the guys at the Wrestling for Life Network, and shout out to the Geek Box as well. His podcast is pretty cool. Go check that out. I found him through the Wrestling for Life guys. They're all a really good crew. As I say, if you want, like, listen to my podcasts, listen to Jake's live streams, but if you want live watch-along content, you will not find anything better than the guys over at the Wrestling for Life Network, and Geekbox is sometimes part of their collaboration as well. But I mentioned to them, I don't know where I got this idea from, and it doesn't really make sense. If Mellow Don't Miz breaks up, and the Wyatt Six break up and all go their separate ways, I kind of really want to see a one-on-one feud between Joe Gacy and Carmelo Hayes. And I don't know why I want to see that, but I kind of do. Joe Gacy's sort of one of the more, I don't know, I find myself with an eye on him when the Wyatt Six are doing their thing more than anything else, because everybody else in the Wyatt Six was already established before that group. The Wyatt Six was how Joe Gacy was brought to the main roster, and he's very unique in that regard. And I think, although some of it was goofy, some of the character work that he did in NXT, not only by himself, but when he was doing the Schism, if anybody remembers that, was kind of cool as well. He was taking the goofy and trying to make it profound, and, you know, the Druids came and ate Braun Breaker, and it was very strange. But yeah, I don't know where I got that idea from, but it's been rolling around in my head since yesterday. Shared it with them, sharing it with you guys. If you can take that idea and make it make any lick of sense, throw it down in the comment section down below. Be nice to each other, but also be nice to me, because, you know, I'm the host and stuff. I don't know. But the Street Profits took on Carmelo Hayes and The Miz, and Carmelo Hayes and The Miz are obviously teasing their breakup, and the Street Profits got the win. Street Profits are over. The Miz and Carmelo Hayes are doing a thing. I like them as a team. I don't like how broadly they're forecasting that we put this team together to break them up, because I don't really think that helps anybody. But as sort of a banter dickhead group, like tag team wise, they're not terrible. And the main event saw Sami Zayn, brand new to SmackDown, achieve his goal immediately of picking up the United States Championship off of Solo Sikoa. Now, on the one hand, it's Sami Zayn picking up a singles title. Now, the interesting bit of trivia on this now is it means that out of the original bloodline, the OG bloodline, the only one that hasn't held singles gold now is Jimmy. Now, Jimmy's off baby making with Naomi, so he's got his own crosses to bear, but it's an interesting bit of trivia nonetheless. Now, Sami Zayn, now that I said that, he's been the Intercontinental Champion as well, so that was already true, but it sort of reinforces that. Now, this was also used, it was used to put a belt on Sami, it was used to justify Sami coming to SmackDown, but it was also, in the broader sense, used to push this, the MFTs versus Team were against the MFTs of Sami and Jimmy and Jacob Fatu, so that's going to be a thing at some point. Another thing I threw out into the ether today as we come up to War Games and looking back on where they first introduced War Games to NXT, the very first War Games, and I don't remember who it was, I think it was like Sanity, the Undisputed Era, it was Sanity versus the Undisputed Era versus Roderick Strong and the Authors of Pain. Yeah, that was a thing. But my point being, it was a three-team competition. So I'm wondering, when we get to the War Games this year, is it going to be the Vision versus the MFTs versus some super babyface group of like CM Punk and the Usos or something along those lines? I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind that at all. Really cool moment for Sami, obviously out there speaking French to the French crowd, the French Canadian out there communing with the French was a really cool thing. Also seeing John Cena and Logan Paul try to cut promos on each other in French at the beginning of the show was was a choice. Let's just say that. But Sami picking up the title, not bad. So the U.S. title has a new holder. We've got brand new #1 contenders for the tag titles that will be immediately dealt with the next day. We've got a new contender for the women's U.S. title. The tag title situation hit a bit of a speed bump with whatever happened with Piper Niven, but we got a cool solo match out of it. And Cena and Logan Paul had some really decent promo time. That's what we got out of SmackDown. Now, rolling over into Paris, at the Paris Defender Arena, I think it was called, something along those lines. Let me quickly cheat and scan up the wiki page. It is the Paris La Défense Arena. Cool, sounds good. They said they broke a record there of 30,313 people, beating the previous record currently held by Taylor Swift, who's apparently dating a football guy or something. The crowd was, I'm going to keep saying it, the crowd was insane all night. The crowd makes me say what everybody says, like, hey, when they come back home to America, and by extension up here to Canada, guys, we need to step our shit up. It just is what it is. There's a reason we used Backlash France as the standard, as the measuring stick of crowd reactions, and they started using the decibel meter and all that fun stuff. The crowd that was on the hard cam side, and I'm sure they were given the poster board and whatever when they walked into the building. It was planned. That's also fine. It still looked cool when they were holding up the red, white, and blue of the France flag during the opening and at the closing as well. So the crowd was pretty fantastic. Roman Reigns, Bronson Reed opened up the show. It was never in any doubt, I don't think, that Roman was going to win this, because Bronson Reed's win was being in this match and showing that he could go toe-to-toe with Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns is insane. Roman Reigns hasn't had I think they said he hasn't had a singles match since obviously since he lost the match to Cody at Mania when Cody finished the story or whatever. And I don't include a triple threat match. Yes, a triple threat is a singles match, but there's more than 2 people in it. I get that. Bronson Reed held his own. Bronson Reed looked like he was ready to step in those footprints and fill those roles and all those types of things. Roman sold for him. Roman came out as the final boss character that he is. No disrespect to The Rock. But he comes out there and he owns the building, and they got the first 2 pops of the night because there's no pre-show matches, obviously, so they got the rowdiest of rowdy crowd. The chants were in French and in English. What is it? The un, deux, simplement deux, when somebody gets a 2 count. It sounds derivative for me to come out here and say, oh, Bronson Reed went out there and had a really good effort. Like that sounds like I'm sloughing him off almost. But he went in there with a guy that was undisputedly the hood ornament of the company for 5 years straight. Not only 5 years straight, but the 5 years that brought us out of COVID, the 5 years that brought us into the Triple H era when we left Vince in the rearview mirror. So he was the hood ornament at probably the most pivotal time. He was the hood ornament as they were taken over by TKO. He was the hood ornament as they switched into Netflix. He was the hood ornament as they expanded here, there, and everywhere and started doing shows around the globe, and not just, globe trotting, being, hopping around the States and occasionally coming up here to Canada. So Roman Reigns is like your Rushmore guy, and it's one of those, it doesn't matter what you think of him anymore. He is that. So Bronson Reed, even remotely looking like he belongs in the same ring as him, is a win in and of itself. Now, Roman sold the struggle. Roman sold the power disadvantage. Roman sold the size disadvantage. He did get him up for the Super Samoan drop at the end, but he sold the struggle of it, and he sold the exhaustion after the fact. Somebody made a good comment, John Moxley over in AEW, and this isn't a dig at AEW, or it's not a dig at John Moxley. They can go in there and go at each other with chainsaws and bleed all over the place, right? But if the match is over and you walk away, then you're not selling what you've done in the match. People like those types of matches. It's fine. That's not the conversation I'm having. Roman Reigns looked like he went in there confident. He left confident, but he left maybe taking more from Bronson Reed than he expected. And all you need from a Roman Reigns character is, hey, maybe I underestimated that kid. That's all you need. Now, afterwards, after he'd taken him out, after he, Superman punch, spear, the Super Samoan drop and all that, he's down. And Paul Heyman's standing behind him, and Paul Heyman has the Shula follow, which is still the greatest thing ever. Somebody said, I think it was Big Nick, said it's a good thing Paul Heyman's wearing dark pants, because as soon as Roman Reigns turns around, that man's about to lose 50 pounds shitting his pants. And he did, and Roman Reigns choked him out with the fucking dragon sleep. I thought he was gonna deck him or maybe hit him with a spear, but he choked him out with the dragon sleeper and took his Shula Fala back, got up on the announce desk, started cutting up the shoes, started signing the shoes and throwing the shoes out of the audience. Great, cool little thing. Watching the crowd swarm for those shoes was insane as well. But as he's doing that, obviously he's standing on one table, out from the crowd, out of nowhere, running across the rail. If you watch the fan cam footage of this, because the cameras only caught him when he ran across the desk, Braun Breaker I'm talking about, but he hops the rail, he runs along the rail, runs along the first desk, hits him with the second, and beats the ever-loving shit out of him. And they do that thing where, okay, get him back in there, spear, tsunami, everybody comes in, everybody tries to clear the ring, and they clear the medical people out of the way so that, Bronson Reed can tsunami him again. And then, the authorities are out there, and the GMs are out there. Stop it. Okay, we're leaving. Actually, no. They wait until they get Roman Reigns. When was the last time Roman Reigns did a stretcher job as well? They had him on the stretcher. His head is stabilized. His arms are stabilized. He's tied to the board. And it made me think of, was it Big Show or was it Brock Lesnar that had Rey Mysterio tied to a medical board and swung him into the post? Somebody remind me down in the box below. It was one of those two guys. But he's in the middle of the ring and he's tied to this board, and then Bronson Reed comes back and tsunamis him unprotected on the board. Finally, Jey Uso comes out, and it's okay, immediately you're thinking this is going to tie into the end of the night, because Jey Uso's in the match at the end of the night, and obviously Rollins' guys are going to be involved at the end of the night, or so we think. Come back again, and spear. Da-da-da-da-da. It is what it is. Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker, it looked like for a second that Braun Breaker hurt himself with the first spear through the table, because he was twitching and fidgeting and all kinds of sorts there, when he's just really doing his twitchy I'm a Steiner Braun Breaker stuff. But they helped Paul to the back, and Paul Heyman was dead weight, because Paul Heyman is fucking amazing. He looked like the Oogie Boogie Man when the Oogie Boogie Man in Nightmare Before Christmas started losing his bugs. That's what he looked at. And then they stop halfway up this gigantic ramp that they had in this awesome looking building, and he did the missile spear from halfway up the ramp and just killed him again. Everybody's dead. Jay's down. What's going to happen with him later? Roman's down. Oh my god, this icon that has been proving his iconic status over the past 5 years, he's down. And the authorities are just, they're taking the guys to the back. And in the back, Adam Pearce, with the big vein pulsing on the side of his bald head, says, "There's no way you guys are here. You guys are out of here. There's no way. You get the, everything but get the fuck out of here." So, what's the story trying to tell you? The story's trying to tell you that Rollins has no backup. But there's always been this rumor. It wasn't just Bronson Reed. It wasn't just Braun Breaker. There's going to be a fourth man. Yeah, it is what it is. Seth Rollins goes on to do an interview later on in the night saying, "I don't need those guys. Those are just my buddies. Those are just guys I'm trying to help." I'm paraphrasing here. But I'm the champion. If I can't win the championship by myself, I shouldn't be the champion. And a lot of people online were like, "This is where we're going to get the fourth man. This is where we're going to get the fourth man." We carry on. That whole thing. Here's the thing. And here's where I saw the complaints kicking off. And I don't care about this in the slightest. It won't surprise you. By the time all of this was over, back to the backstage segment in the back, we were 50 minutes into the show, almost an hour into the show in one match. But look at what we've done in this amount of time. We've made Bronson Reed look like $1 million. We've had Roman get a win, sew up the tribal thief little subplot that was going on there. Had a really cool moment with the crowd with the signing of the shoes and the tossing of the shoes. had Braun Breaker come along and get his licks in on Roman Reigns, confirming what we kind of already knew, that before we get to Rollins, the real interesting, intriguing match is going to be Roman and Breaker. Later on down the line, Bronson Reed was the first step. Bronson Reed being the first step also allowed him to have an awesome showing in front of an amazing electric crowd, and everybody wins. Paul Heyman took a couple of licks, and Jey Uso is injured going into your main event, which they specified several times was going to be the main event. Now, so that's all that they achieved. So the fact that the first match took an hour, or the first match and all the surrounding accoutrement took almost an hour, I really don't care. The next match was really short, actually. The next match was only 13 minutes, according to Wiki. The Wyatt Six, Joe Gacy and Dexter Lumis, with Uncle Howdy, Eric Rowan, and Nikki Cross in their corner, defeated the Street Profits, Angelo Dawkins, and Montez Ford. Now, the interesting thing about all this, and I may have to go back and look at SmackDown if they were doing that as well, on SmackDown, the team that looked like it was about to fall apart was Mellow Don't Miz, and Street Profits were the intact. I was about to say entitled. That's not the word I was going for at all. The intact unit. And then we get into today's match, and from the very moment that they were saying who's gonna be, starting the match and who's gonna go out to the corner, the Street Profits were arguing. Now, this opens up the conversation once again. Are the Street Profits going to break up? Is Montez Ford going to get a singles? I would love to see a Montez Ford singles run. The fact that people are tying a Montez singles run to him working with Bianca more, I don't think is necessary, because I think people will believe Montez Ford as a heel more than they will believe Bianca as a heel. And them as a heel group, where one of them's a believable heel and one's not, doesn't really work. It's the same thing that always happens when you talk about breaking up the Street Profits. I like Angelo Dawkins. I think the dude, he is the Matt Hardy, he is the Christian, he is the Hawk, he is the, I don't know who else you want to bring up. He's the one I'd be worried about if they broke them up, because the flashier, more charismatic, more expressive, a little bit more exciting in the ring, sorry to say, guy is Montez Ford. He will go far. I don't know what they do with Angelo Dawkins as a singles guy, unless it's a matter of Montez Ford and Bianca Belair taking on Angelo Dawkins and B-Fab. Now, there's only so far you can take that, and I'm not crazy about a B-Fab Bianca Belair feud, with all due respect. I like B-Fab. She's not the best, but I don't know. I don't know what they do. It would be insane for Montez Ford, and the guy deserves it. The guy has deserved it for 2 or 3 years, but there might be a downside to that. Anyways, the match was a lot of fun. I really like the Wyatt Six, as you guys know, as comes as no surprise to anybody. They've downplayed the spookier elements and kept it to just the entrance, pretty much. And they're more so like just a ragtag bunch of like undesirable people. They really are. And I hate saying, okay, this is the next of this, but they're more Raven's flock than Ministry, if that makes any sense at all. Nikki getting involved, Rowan getting involved, it tilts them into the heel side, but really they're the monster side. Dexter Lumis and Joe Gacy being the ones holding the titles right now. Like I said, Dexter Lumis is a really weird guy to watch, and not that they're the same, but it's... The only comparison I can make is Ryback, and it's a horrible, horrible comparison. I didn't think Ryback was that good, but he was weird enough that watching his matches was interesting. Dexter Lumis, in a very different way, is a weird guy. He maintains this like lack of expression even when he's doing sort of exhausting stuff. And the way that him and Gacy have melded together as the tag team within this larger unit is going under the radar as far as not being recognized. But they did cheat. They did get the double team, that suplex into a powerbomb double team. I don't know what it's called because it's tired in here. I did not get to come up here and record this right after the show was over, so I'm recording this at a time where a normal pay-per-view would have ended. But the guys I wanted to win won. Apparently, the trail they're going down is the Wyatt Six versus the MFTs. And again, it goes back into that category of, I don't know what that looks like, but I kind of, like, morbid curiosity takes over. I kind of want to have a look at it. Now, famously, going back to the Ryback comparison, the last time I can remember, or the most obvious example that I can think of, hey, I don't know if that match is going to be any good, but it's weird and I want to have a look at it, was Ryback versus Bray Wyatt. And it was not good. So, potentially, the Wyatt Six versus the MFTs could be terrible. But it's still intriguing, and I still want to look at it. And if it's terrible, it's terrible. I found it quite interesting on SmackDown as well. I should have mentioned this ahead of time. Before the number one contenders match, both the Street Profits and Mello Don't Miz, as they were arguing in the back, were confronted by I can't think of his other name now. I keep calling him Uncle Howdy, Bo Dallas. And I say that because he wasn't all dolled up in like Uncle Howdy gear. He just came to them as Bo Dallas and spoke to them in very, very Bray Wyatt speak, which is why I say they're toning down some of the more like prop-based, gimmick-based, spooky stuff, and it's just like, hey, maybe we're just a bunch of people that are a bit off, and, you know, that's a real thing, because have you looked outside recently? Oh, yes. Not going to spend too much time on this, because it was tragic. Becky Lynch and Nikki Bella. I love Becky Lynch. I think they could give Becky Lynch everything and they would still not be utilizing her to her full potential. But even Becky Lynch couldn't pull this to a good back. Nikki Bella is fucking terrible. Why is she on my TV? Why is she coming out of the corner and kicking the air? And I don't mean like she whiffed a little bit. Like she's kicking the air where there's clearly not a person. And it was won by a roll-up. And the only thing that I will say about the roll-up is kind of like a double arm. If they were standing, it would have been a setup for a pedigree, but they were on the ground. So the double arm turned into a roll-up from the double arm. And apparently Becky Lynch is calling it the lynch pin, which I think is really clever. And it made me smile, and it made me not hate the fact that somebody as awesome as Becky Lynch had to resort to a roll-up to beat a Nikki Bella. But it also makes me say, hey, if we're going to call that the lynch pin, can we call all of Becky's fans the lynch mob? I'm sure that'll go over like a lead balloon. Oh yes, moving swiftly on, because that match made me sad. Rusev fought Sheamus in a bar fight, and it sure was Rusev and Sheamus in a bar fight. Yeah, Rusev got the win, which I think they had to do, because everybody loves Sheamus. A loss isn't going to hurt him, and they got to give Rusev something. He did a modified Accolade upside down with the shillelagh in Sheamus's face, the same way that Edge used to do the crossface with the broken piece of the chair, except they used the shillelagh. They had some trouble with the props on the outside, the actual bar that was out there. The old styly bar that was supposed to be an old like a tavern. We're gonna have a Donnybrook at the pub at the corner, but the bar was full of Prime for reasons. But anyways, they got up on the kegs and they did a white noise through the chair. They did a couple of other things. They hit each other really hard. I'm making it sound like this match was boring. It wasn't boring. These guys went hell for leather at it, hammer and nail, tooth and nail. What was the old Mauro Ranallo line? They went at it tooth and nail like a carpenter and a dentist, which is lame, but it's also Mauro, and I miss Mauro on commentary. So the match was good. Rusev got the win that he needed. Sheamus isn't hurt by the loss. And they just went in there and hit each other really hard. And it was fun. It was more fun than I'm making it sound. And I think everybody was mutually pulling themselves up from the fact that we just had to put up with Nikki Bella on pay-per-view in 2025. John Cena and Logan Paul, on the other hand, was fantastic. John Cena and Logan Paul was really cool for me from the perspective of, here's two guys for very different reasons. Cena, everybody's had an up and down relationship with Cena for his entire career, and his career is like 10 dates away from being over, and he's not a spring chicken, and it shows. So they are we're measuring our expectations of John Cena based on those very, very reasonable and valid criterias. Logan Paul is fantastic and has set the standard for celebrity wrestling in the WWE, even though he's been on the roster for 4 years now, and he doesn't really count as a celebrity guest anymore anyway. Logan Paul is underestimated just because people think he's a meanie head on Twitter or whatever, and they don't like him, so they want to pretend he's not good. So, what this match was, in my opinion, and I could be wrong, I can't speak for these guys, I don't know these guys, this match really felt to me like two guys that knew they were being underestimated, knew that their match was being underestimated, being underrated, shall we say, and the two of them went out to the ring together and said, okay, fuck you, rate this. Amazing. Logan Paul doing all his spots, Cena fighting the 5 moves of doom thing to an almost comical degree. You know, doing the reverse Ranas and the Hurricane Ranas and the code reds and all these different things. The double underhook faceplant thing that he did, where I thought he was going to be almost doing a pedigree or an angel's wings type of idea. The fact that he pulled out a Styles Clash at one point, and in the post-show, it's not a scrum anymore, which people are pretending to be upset about, but in the post-show roundup type thing, he even gave a shout-out to AJ Styles, and he put it into good words. Is like, I want to put across the idea that I had to pull stuff out of my toolbox, and then I had to pull some stuff out of other people's toolboxes, you know, shout-out to AJ Styles, because that's how good Logan Paul is. And I thought that was the way that John Cena approached this of, I don't dislike you, kid. I think you are everything you say you are. You just need to stop being an asshole. It was such a cool thing that only somebody in the position of a John Cena, who's at a position in his career right now where he can laugh at himself so nobody else can laugh at him. Really, really cool. And obviously John Cena got the win. That's besides the point. They did a lot in this match, and it wasn't as short as I thought it was going to be. Logan Paul is a great spectacle wrestler. I will agree to a certain degree with the people that have said the spots between the big spots he hasn't quite grasped yet. And John Cena, as we say, as a guy that's just coming to the end of his career, and there's nothing wrong with that, I would have forgiven for having a shorter match as well. But these guys went over 25 minutes, and the fans were with it. The fans were rising and falling with everything that these guys did. I don't think any of the fans sat down the whole match, and it was a lot of fun. And it was just, I go back to this a lot, and I don't have any more eloquent way to say it. Even if a match, and this match wasn't bad, but even if a match is bad, I will find enjoyment in it if I know the wrestlers are having a good time. My classic example is John Cena and The Miz and their respective partners at the time having a mixed tag at WrestleMania. Was it the reason that anybody bought WrestleMania? Absolutely not. And that almost made it like this little thing that existed on the side, and they could just have some fun with it. And you could tell that The Miz and Cena were like buddies, and they were like basically in there fucking around. They weren't in there fucking around for this match, but there was a little bit of like, there's something there, like charisma-wise, match continuity wise, chemistry wise, that's the word I'm looking for. It's tired in here. There's a chemistry between Logan Paul and John Cena, and it's really cool. And if he wasn't down to his last 8 dates, I wouldn't mind them running this back. Like, if he was retiring at the end of 2026 and we had a little bit more time to play with, I wouldn't mind them running this back at WrestlePalooza. It's not going to happen. It's going to be him and Lesnar, which is the other cool thing. The other cool thing about this match, and everybody's saying, oh, there's going to be a surprise, the surprise, and eventually, myself included, we thought, okay, well, whatever happens in this match, he's going to get owned by Lesnar after the fact, like he did at SummerSlam. To the point where the fact that Lesnar didn't come out afterwards was the surprise. The fact that Logan Paul just sort of like seeped away into the darkness, and Cena got a long ass time to soak it up with the fans. enjoy the adulation of the fans for the last time, you know, in that part of the world and whatnot. You saw him going around, you know, hugging various people. I think his new partner, the one that he chose after Nikki Bella because he upgraded, was out there. The kid from Belgium was there, and the kid from Belgium was also at SmackDown, so he's a celebrity in his own right now. Went and hugged, who was out at the ringside area beside commentary? It was Jelly Roll and Post Malone. So, like, I don't know, John Cena and Jelly Roll gonna team up like Jelly Roll and Randy Orton teamed up. I don't know. They dragged it out so long that everybody kind of went, "Oh, this is a good moment." He's getting way too much shine after the match. This moment is a little too happy. Who's gonna come fuck it up? Is Brock coming or whatever? And the fact that nobody did, and the fact that they just let the cool, nice moment linger, was the surprise. I don't know. Tell me if you agree. Tell me if you think they should have, because the only reason I said they would have done it at the end of this match rather than the next night on Raw or the next night on SmackDown is because it would take another date of John Cena's last remaining 8 dates to get randomly attacked again and come back out and say, hey, we're going to have a match at WrestlePalooza. Why wouldn't they just do it on this card while everybody's already watching, because it's this fun card that's happening in front of this amazing crowd in France and all this type of thing. Use one to set up the next. It's not the worst thing. NXT does it a lot. NXT does a lot of, you know, you're watching the pay-per-view right now, here's the next one we got coming, and here's the next one we got coming, like No Mercy, Halloween Havoc, and Homecoming were all advertised on the Heatwave show, as well as what was happening that week on NXT. But I guess they are going to use one of his dates to just come out and say hi to the crowd and get F5'd and say, okay, well, I guess we're fucking fighting at WrestlePalooza, because they're debuting on ESPN. But yeah, this was just really nice. John Cena, like I say, and I'm rambling now, but John Cena on his way out, getting the adulation that he deserves from a crowd that was very freely giving it as well, was really cool. Seth Rollins, CM Punk, Jey Uso, LA Knight for the World Heavyweight Championship. As I say, Rollins was asked about what his confidence level was like now that his backup is gone. He made the comment about, you know, I'm going to go out there and do it all on my own, which means you're definitely not going to go out there and do it all on your own. Jey Uso's going into the match with ribs. LA Knight, let's be real for a second, was the one we all thought was eating the pin in this match. I thought going into this match that, as I think a lot of people did, they want to keep the Seth and CM Punk thing going. They don't want to give Punk the win. We don't want to give Seth a loss, so throw a couple of extra bodies in there, and one of those bodies could eat the loss, and then really CM Punk and Seth Rollins stays even. I thought that the last thing they were going to do was have Seth pin Punk or have Punk pin Seth. But it turns out that the reason that they made it into a multi-person match, because a triple threat or a fatal four-way is no DQ, was so that the surprise at the end of the night wouldn't have caused a DQ in the match, and that Seth Rollins would have another definitive victory over CM Punk. Now, the match went on, and the match went on, and the match went on, and to the fact that they were brawling on the outside, and Rollins thought he had the upper hand on Punk, and sure, Jay's already down, stomp just for the hell of it. LA Knight, I believe, was in the wreckage of one of the tables. Stomp for you, just to be sure. They had this. Oh, I love the way they set this up, because it's not reinventing the wheel, but it was just different enough. He opened up a chair in the ring, and he had Punk laying face down on the chair. He was going to stomp him on the chair. Punk was able to pull his head out of the chair, and Seth stomped through the chair. Now, it's cool on a couple of levels, because it obviously, like, you mangle your own leg in a chair with all the force that you intended for your opponent. You got to assume you're going to be hurt by that. You got to assume CM Punk now sees an advantage. The extra bit, for those of us that have been paying attention for a long time, is all the history with leg issues that Seth Rollins has had, plus the fake out that he pulled on LA Knight at Saturday night's main event that led to the comeback, that led to the cash-in, blah, 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 blah. Somebody pointed out, again, it was over on the Wrestling for Life guys channel, and I don't know who to credit, so I'll just credit their channel in general. For somebody with bad legs, Seth Rollins sure has a lot of leg-based offense, and I thought that was that was kind of cool in the sense I've never really thought of it that way before. But he goes for the stomp. He stomps his own foot through the chair, gets hit with a go to sleep. And he does that thing that people are doing in Rollins matches now. He did it with Mox one time. I think he did it with Cena. I think he did it with... who else did he do it with? Probably somebody else. But that thing where he hits the GTS and instead of flopping to the ground, they sort of stumble backwards against the ropes and back onto his shoulders again. I don't know why I'm making hand motions. This is a podcast. You guys can't see what I'm doing with my hands. But he sort of stumbles and sort of falls onto the shoulders of CM Punk for a second time, presumably for a second GTS. But CM Punk takes his time walking around the ring, and you're thinking, why is the camera shooting from an odd angle? Why is CM Punk taking so long? Clearly something's about to happen, and CM Punk gets a shot in the pills from a very slim person. So it's not, Austin Theory as was predicted. It's not Ethan Page or Ricky Saints, which were two of the names predicted. Who's the other one? There was somebody else in NXT that's just big. Somebody said Josh Briggs at one point, which I think would be an excellent addition. Josh Briggs joining the Vision would be an excellent addition. Side note. But no, it's somebody very small, very slight, and when they pull their head back and all they've got is the mask on, you can see a big bunch up at the back of the mask. So it's either a very, very small dude with long hair, or it's a female. And then you look at the eyes. The eyes are very distinct. It's clearly Becky Lynch. We take the hood off. It's Becky Lynch. The crowd goes nuts. I grin like a Cheshire cat, because why wouldn't you do this? She's a heel, he's a heel. The way they are healing it up is so similar in a lot of ways. The smart fan, and I hate saying it like that, you guys know what I mean, is going to say they're both dickheads, they're both on the same brand, why wouldn't they be helping each other out? They're both champions, why wouldn't they be winners together? And the only thing I've heard is, oh, well, last time they tag teamed together, it wasn't that great. Well, with all due respect, they were going up against Baron Corbin and Lacey Evans that had all the booking of a Baron Corbin and Lacey Evans match. Lacey Evans, controversial to say the very least. Baron Corbin, who's great, who's really killing it on the indies right now with Dijak, and I couldn't be happier for the guy, but he wasn't treated well at the time. They were wrestling down to the booking of the people that they were wrestling. They have not tried Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins together as a main roster act, and they should. And they're both obnoxious. Like, they're both obnoxious, and again, going back to that match from WrestleMania a couple years ago when John Cena was with Nikki Bella at the time, and The Miz had his wife Maurice, his hot smoking wife, etc., much like Becky Lynch has her hot husband. There is, and I don't care if you think I'm being cheesy or whatever, but you get to go to work every day and probably wrestle in the main event with your wife, with your husband, with your partner, your spouse, your loved one, however you want to call it. He gets to go probably wrestle in main events now with the mother of his child. That's awesome. Character-wise aside, whatever the story is aside, the fact that it's a big faction, it's not just the two of them, aside, he gets to go to work and hang out with his wife. That's awesome. In the storyline, those characters are going to feed off of each other, and all the people that they're going to piss off and annoy, and oh my god, I can't believe they're in the main event. Meanwhile, they're proposing 7 or 8 more Naomi title runs. What do I say? I say all the time, why do I like it? Because it pisses off all the right people, and this is going to piss off all the right people, because they're going to try really hard. This is the thing. People that don't like this just because they don't like Becky or just because they don't like Seth are going to try and tell you that it doesn't make sense, when it makes all the sense. Whereas if they could, and I'll say this right now, if you came out there and you say, I don't like this because I don't like them, fine, cool. I will high-five you for at least being honest. It doesn't make any sense. It absolutely does. And they're both carrying titles that they helped make prominent. When they introduced the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, they put it on Seth Rollins. They do that for a reason. Now, they debuted the Women's Intercontinental Championship on Lyra Valkyria, but when did they start featuring it prominently? When they put it on Becky, because every other title that they've put on her, including when she went back to NXT, has felt more prominent for her holding it. So they are not only holding titles, they are holding the titles that they made prominent. Braun and Bronson are gonna go get those tag titles eventually. There's not very much else going on in the tag team division on Raw. They're not killing it like they are on SmackDown. Those guys are they're gonna do the we have all the belts thing. They're gonna hand off the speed title to Paul Heyman or something like that. It's all good. I do want to say though, after the opening segment where you had Braun and Bronson and they were basically decimating Roman Reigns and Jey Uso, and this is no slight on Roman Reigns, these guys could just be a unit. If there's a falling out or a draft or something stupid, let Becky and Seth go be a thing, and let Braun and Bronson be just a wrecking ball tag team managed by Paul Heyman. Not necessarily right now. Right now they're a foursome, so to speak. Pause. But eventually, that tag team, they exist. They exist more as a tag team than they do as Rollins' goons, because Rollins is so often not with them that they're more presented as Braun having Bronson's back and vice versa than they are either one of them having Seth's back. Because look at tonight, Becky was the one that had Seth's back. So Becky and Seth are going to go off and be like power couple, mutual champions or whatever, and they're going to do what everybody else does. We don't need Paul Heyman anymore. What have you ever done for us? And they'll turn on him like everybody turns on Paul. Like AEW just desecrated the 2300. It's fine. Don't worry about it. With their free ROH pay-per-view on YouTube. Ha. But this was a lot of fun. It was a great twist. It was one of those, like, oh, I bet they're going to do, like, the Seth Becky thing eventually. But at the same time, everybody was spitballing, Josh Briggs, Ethan Page, Ricky Saints, Austin Theory. Somebody said Grayson Waller as well. And as funny as that would be, I don't think that's happening either, because Grayson Waller has joined the New Day in mourning their tag titles, which is also a lot of fun. I'm really tired. I had a lot of fun. Guys, I went on to that preview, and I said, this is a filler show. It's going to get us to the next show. This show, and like I say, combined with some of the stuff that we got out of SmackDown as well, was leaps and bounds better than it had any right to be based on how it was booked before we got here. This is probably, it's not the best pay-per-view of the year. I'm not going to stray into hyperbole, but this weekend, this show, including the SmackDown in it as one big lump, this is probably the biggest over-delivery WWE has given us this year. Like, this is the biggest that had no reason to be as good as it is weekend of action and activity that WWE has given us this year. Because we've had a lot better shows, a lot bigger shows, but we expected them to be bigger and better. This show over-delivered on what was promised in the same way that I wanted Heatwave to over-deliver when I looked at it as a filler show. And it didn't. It filled that slot as a filler show. It failed to get itself up from that sort of classification. This over-delivered in every way, shape, or form. And a lot of that did come from the fact that they were in France, from the fact that they were in Paris for a pay-per-view for the first time, for the record-breaking 30,000 plus attendance of rabid French fans. Awesome night for Bronson Reed. Awesome night for Braun Breaker. Interesting night for Roman Reigns. It's one thing to operate at the top of the card where you are. It's a different thing to prove your stripes coming down and lifting somebody else up. The Wyatt Six look awesome. No disrespect to Street Profits, but I hope the Wyatt Six hold those titles for a long time. Becky Lynch did her damn hardest to make Nikki Bella look like a wrestler, which was not successful, but it wasn't expected to be successful because it's Nikki Bella. Rusev and Sheamus just beat the crap out of each other, and it was fun, and it brought us out of the depression caused by a Nikki Bella match. John Cena and Logan Paul flipped mutual birds to all the haters. You'll love to see it. And as much as I would love to see CM Punk be the world champion, be the other pillar along with Cody Rhodes, if you don't get the pillar reference, it's not an AEW reference, it's a Game of Thrones reference. Go listen to my preview. As much as CM Punk not winning and getting screwed pissed me off, it pissed me off in the best way of, like, keep fucking him over. The more they fuck over Punk, the more his ultimate victory will be victorious. That's how you put a sentence together when you're tired. I'm gonna stop rambling now because I am indeed tired. Please let me know what you guys thought of Clash in Paris. Please let me know what you thought of the SmackDown that was part of the Clash in Paris weekend, because I think they were a 1-2 punch pretty successfully this time around. Go check out my buddies over at the Wrestling for Life Network. They do awesome shit. I know Jake did a live post-show for this pay-per-view as well. Go check him out. Go congratulate him for reaching 10,000 subs. I couldn't think of anybody that deserves it more, and I don't know what the next thing Geekbox is doing is, but go check him out as well. He is also a good dude. I am losing my voice. I am very tired. I'm also Spaz Phoenix, your YWC Reality Check. Subscribe up there, talk down there, start a conversation. Keep all these conversations going. Don't be a stranger. I'll talk to each and every last one of you later, but for right now, I am tagging out. Bye, guys.